Let me teach you how to make irresistible commercial cinnamon roll recipe that will make your clients come back for more. Yes, I know I've been away for a while. I'm so sorry about that. I've been concentrating on my vlog channel and also my newest channel, but now I'm back for you guys and I'm going to start sharing my no-fail commercial recipes henceforth. If you're new to my recipe channel, you're welcome. My name is Susan and I am the host of Sussy's Cakes Recipe. And today we'll be making my no-fail commercial cinnamon roll recipe. First thing we are going to do is to start making the cinnamon rolls fillings, and for this we'll need sugar. I'm going to be leaving all the recipe in the description box of this video. So we're needing sugar, we're needing cinnamon powder. Oh yes, we're using a lot of cinnamon powder. That is why it's called cinnamon roll anyway. Then we making brown sugar. Yes, so making brown sugar. And to make our brown sugar, you do not need to buy your brown sugar from the market. Yes, I'm going to show you how to make your brown sugar from the comfort of your home. I'm going to be making use of brownie to make my brown sugar, my brownie. You can also use black treacle to make it, but this is brown. I'm going to be using brownie to make it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing I want to do first is to make the brown sugar. So to make the brown sugar, I'm just going to add my brownie into my regular white sugar, your granulated white sugar. So I'm just going to pour it in, and this has a measurement. Don't say you saw Sussy's Cakes just pouring it in. It has a measurement. That's the reason why. And I know how much this weighs in this bottle. That's the reason why I'm pouring this particular one in. So depending on how dark or how brown you want your brown sugar to be, so the first thing I do is, after adding the first set of the measured brownie, I'm going to stir this well. So now there's one trick to making this. If I'm using black treacle, I'll use half of the quantity of black treacle as against brown sugar. What I mean is, if I'm supposed to use 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of sugar, if I'm supposed to use 1 tablespoon of brownie to 1 cup of sugar, if I'm making use of black treacle, I'll use half tablespoon of black treacle to brown sugar to the sugar, half tablespoon of black treacle to the sugar. If it is brownie, I'll use 1 tablespoon of brownie to normal sugar. But if it is black treacle, I'll use half tablespoon of black treacle to the sugar. The reason is black treacle has more strength to make your sugar brown compared to brownie. So let me say it again. If I'm using brownie, I'll use 1 tablespoon to 1 cup. If I'm using black treacle, I'll use half tablespoon to 1 cup. So depending on how brown or how deep you want the color of your brown sugar to be, that's how you are going to increase or decrease your brownie or black treacle. I'm going to stir this well with my spatula, stirring this in well. And you're going to make sure you stir it well that there are no black lumps of brownie or black treacle. So these lumps, you make sure you stir them well that those lumps are not there. At the end of the day, this is what we have. Look at how deep this is. So if I wanted it to be lighter, I'll have used half of the quantity in the recipe, but this is how deep I wanted it to do, since I was making cinnamon rolls. Then after that, I'm going to be adding my cinnamon powder to my already made homemade brown sugar. So I'm going to add everything. All these they are pre-measured. I'll add everything and I'm going to stir it into the brown sugar, just as you can see me doing. You want to make sure you mix in the cinnamon powder very well, just like the way you see me doing. I've mixed in mine very, very well, and our filling is almost ready. The other thing we need again for our filling is the unsalted butter or margarine. I'm using margarine in my own case. Here we have our sugar, brown sugar, already filled with cinnamon powder or mixed with cinnamon powder. And then next we have our margarine, or you can use unsalted butter for this filling. So this is the filling and the filling is ready. I'm going to set this aside. To begin, I'm going to start by using flour. I'm making times 5 of the recipe. So I'm using flour, this quantity of flour. I'm using salt. I'm going to be using sugar. These are all measured. I'm going to be using milk. I'm going to be using margarine. You can also use butter. And then I'm going to be using yeast. And lastly I'm going to be using eggs. So these are all the items I'll be using to create the dough for this recipe. Now check the description box of this video for a link to the measurements you use in creating this recipe. Check the description box of this video for a link to the measurements used in creating this recipe. And if you want to see how I made this recipe into 270 pieces of cinnamon roll, check the link in the description box of this video too. There is a link to that video. So these are all the items I'll be using for the dough for this recipe: margarine, sugar, salt, flour, milk, eggs, yeast. To begin, I'm going to be adding all dry items into my flour bowl. I'll begin by adding my sugar. Next, I'm going to add in my salt. And then to another side of the bowl, I'm going to be adding in my yeast. If you have been following my recipe channel or even my vlog channel, you know I usually say salt and yeast do not meet, because salt has the potentials of killing yeast. So you don't pour salt directly on yeast or vice versa. So that's the reason why I'm adding them separately at different portion of the bowl. Now I'm going to mix this dry item together with my fingers, just as so. So once these are well incorporated, I'm going to be adding in my eggs. Now because I'm making times 5 of the recipe, I'm going to be using 5 eggs. Now if you're following my recipe channel, you know I usually say do not break your eggs directly into your bowls like this. No, it's very, very wrong. It's very wrong because you're going to end up with eggshells in your dough. And when your customer or client is eating your pastries, the customer is going to feel that you have sand in your dough, which is not true. It's just because you mistakenly broke eggshell in your bowl. So you need to break your eggs away from your bowl. So I'm going to add all my eggs right now. If you're just watching my video for the first time, please do me a very big favor to subscribe to the channel. This way you tell YouTube that this content creator is creating something of value. You also tell other subscribers that this content creator is creating a content that has value in it. Also, you do not miss any of my recipes I share. So I'm adding in the butter right now, or margarine. I'm using margarine here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this with my fingers. See, it forms like a breadcrumb texture. If you watched my 300 pieces of meat pie I did on my vlog channel, you are going to note how the breadcrumbs texture is going to look like. If you've not watched the video, that's one of my most viral videos, so you can also watch that out. Next, I created a well in the middle of my dough and I'm adding my milk. I will never use water to make cinnamon roll. You can use water, nothing bad in it, but using milk gives it a more richer taste. That is the reason why I always use milk for my cinnamon roll. No matter the quantity, I will always use milk for my cinnamon roll. And I've had awesome feedbacks back to back, irrespective of the quantity of cinnamon roll I created. So you are going to be adding your liquid, either if you're using milk or if you're using water, little by little. The reason why we add it little by little and not just at once is because we have different flour types in the market, and each of these flour brands consumes water differently. So you want to add your water little by little, just weigh all your milk little by little till you get the consistency I'm going to show you, or the thickness I'm going to show you very soon. At the end of the day, this is what you should be having: a dough like this. It is slightly sticky, very just little, not that sticky, but slightly sticky. And I did not finish my liquid, the milk. I didn't finish it, and this is what we have now. So I'm now going to go ahead to knead this. Now, if you are kneading, you can use your standing mixer, industrial mixer, to knead this for 4 minutes. But if you're like me, that is doubling the recipe, I'm making times 5 of this recipe, you're going to knead for 20 minutes. That says 4 times 5, 20 minutes. But if you're doing just one of the recipe, you just need for 4 minutes. So I'm going to knead this now, and if you don't have a standing mixer, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to knead without that. So I'm going to transfer the dough right now to my work surface. And I'm going to be slamming it for the next 20 minutes. I'll just lift it and slam. If you watch my Make It Donuts recipe, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. Just like that for the next 20 minutes. You can also knead with your hands like this. You can knead with your hand like this, but I prefer the slamming method. The reason is it makes my cinnamon roll extremely soft. So you can do like this too if you want for the next 20 minutes, but that as if you are kneading fondant. But this is the way I'm going to do mine for the next 20 minutes. So after a successful kneading process, this is how it should look like. Don't be tempted to add flour to your work surface when you are working, when you are kneading, because it's going to add extra flour, extra dry items, extra dryness to your cinnamon roll. So just knead it. When you knead, it's going to come out smooth and without sticking to your fingers anymore. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this dough into 5 equal parts, since I'm actually making times 5 of my recipe. So I'll divide the dough into 5 equal parts. Don't worry, I'm still going to weigh each of them to make sure that they're accurate. So I'm going to weigh each dough till all the 5 pieces are accurate. Alternatively, what I did was I placed all the dough on themselves, and then I divided the weight. I placed them on themselves, and then I weighed all the old dough. That is the old dough I mixed and placed it on the scale, weighed it, then divided it by 5. So that was easier. And then I have 5 equal dough. So I'm just going to space this and allow this rest for 5 minutes. The reason why we're allowing it to rest is not to prove it, but to allow the gluten to relax, so that by the time we go over to rolling it, it's not going to be giving us issues. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get each dough, and we're going to roll it to be into a rectangular format, 18 by 15. Then next we'll be getting our butter, the one for the filling, and then the brown sugar for the filling. But let's set this aside. We're going to roll this dough to be 18 by 15. Then after doing that, I'm now first of all going to apply my butter, this butter that I measured out, generously on the dough. I can see I'm using my silicone spatula. This is easier for you to spread well. Then next, I'm going to get my brown sugar and sprinkle it all over. Then I'm going to get my rolling pin and slightly roll it over. This way, I'm pressing my brown sugar so that it doesn't spill out during baking. I'm doing this slightly. Alternatively, you can use your offset spatula to do this, and this is the one I find very neat. Just to press it in. I prefer this method because it makes my work easier and also very neat. So if you don't have this offset spatula, you can use, or crank knife, you can use your rolling pin. So after doing that, the next thing is we're going to roll this into a log, not too tight, just carefully roll it into a log. And then once it gets to the end, to the tip, you're going to seal it together. You seal it together just like so. Just seal it together. Then I'm going to cut this into 12 equal parts, and this is how I do it. I look for the center and I divide it just like this, right? Then I'm going to look for the center of this half and I'll make an indent. Then the center of each again, and I'll create another one. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8. I'll look for the center again until I get 12 pieces. So once I've marked where I want to cut, I'll go and prepare my baking tray. Now for my baking tray, I just got my baking tray and I got my parchment paper, and I'm going to just put this on my baking tray. Now if you don't have this method, you can grease your baking tray and flour it as if you're baking your regular cake. But this way it's easier, it makes your tray neater after work, and it also makes it easier for you to lift the cinnamon roll. So if you are not perfect in getting the exact places to cut, just make sure that each of your cinnamon roll is at least 2 inches, just like this, and then you mark and cut. So after cutting, you place them on your prepared baking tray. Make sure you are leaving a gap in between each of them and also at the edges of the trays. The reason why we're leaving gap is so that it has space to prove and also have space to expand while it bakes. And here we have it. So I'm going to repeat this process of rolling out, spreading into our filling, and also cutting for the remaining 4 doughs. And then I'm going to leave it to prove till it doubles in size, about 1 hour to 45 minutes. Do something. When I pick the cinnamon roll, if I place it like this in my baking tray, by the time it starts baking or start proving, it's going to open. So what I'm just going to do is just to take this part and place this under, see, under just like this, and place it on my baking tray. Let me do it again so you can see. Pick it, place it under, and place it on my baking tray. So that's one way again of folding your cinnamon rolls. So this is what they look like after they have proved. Look at how puffy they are. If I touch any of this slightly, you're going to notice how puffy it is. So now these are ready for baking. So I'm just going to pop this into my oven and allow this to bake. Remember to check the description box of this video for a link to the detailed recipe. Check the description box of this video for a link to a detailed recipe. Now you allow this bake in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes. So this are just out of the oven. Now I like removing them away from the pan, the baking tray. Immediately it's out of the oven. The reason is I need to rebake inside the same oven tray. Another reason is once it gets cold in the oven tray, it becomes very hard for you to remove it. Yes, because this is sugar, and then once the sugar solidifies, it becomes hard for you to remove it. So I prefer removing it while it's still warm or immediately it's out of the oven. I'm just going to remove this now and set it aside and prepare the oven again for rebaking. Now preparing the oven again just means I'm just going to just lift it using the parchment paper. I'll use a parchment paper to lift it up, just like so. I'll lift it up like this, and then I will continue. I'll place another fresh parchment paper on it and place a new set on it. I'll allow the oven tray to get cool completely before I place a new set, an unbaked set of cinnamon rolls on it. Don't put your cinnamon rolls on your baking sheet or on your baking tray while it is still hot or warm. Let your baking tray become cold quickly. Now another quicker way to make a baking tray get cold quickly is put this under running water. Yes, it's going to get cold quickly. So that's how to do it. So I'm going to continue now. I'm going to finish all the badges. You can go ahead and glaze it with a simple sugar glaze. You can check my recipe channel for more glaze option, and you need to glaze it while it's still warm. So that is how to make a commercial cinnamon roll recipe that is irresistible. If you watched my videos to this point, thank you so much for your patience. Leave me comments always in the comment section, and I promise you I'll definitely respond to them. So let me hear your thoughts. Have you made cinnamon rolls before? Have you eaten it before? Do you like it? What glaze do you like on your cinnamon roll? And also, what recipe are you looking forward to getting from me? Remember, all my recipes are no fail recipes and recipes they are going to love. So adventurous bakers, see you in that update. Bye bye for now.